friends. Today you're going to listen to The Mitten by Jan Brett. And I know yesterday that you watched the video, but now I'm going to read the story and you're going to listen to it today. But first, Eleanor, I know it's just you today, but I wanted to share a couple of things with you that my daughter, well, first one that she made, and then there's a terrarium. I don't know if you know what a terrarium is, but I just thought that this is something that you would get a kick out of. It was something that she got for Christmas, and she planted it, and 3 days later, all her seeds sprouted. So it's something that comes where it comes in a kit, and you layer the sand with the soil and all the seeds. You just layer it on top of each other. It actually glows in the dark as well. It's called a terrarium, and it's inside this container. I thought you'd get a kick out of it. It grew in about, I can take the top off. It started sprouting in about 3 days. And look how thick it is. So it's in my sunroom right now, and during the day it gets a lot of sunlight, so it's really a great spot for it. And it's getting so tall that we actually have to trim. We actually have to trim some of the grass. I might just leave this off actually, just so it can grow a little bit higher and I don't damage the grass. Here we go. And then my daughter she loves squishmallows. I don't know if you know what they are, but they're just like squishable stuffed animals. But she made this little book, and I thought it was so cute, and I'm going to bring it to school tomorrow, and maybe it will inspire some of my students, maybe even you, to make a book. It says, once there was a pineapple. He was all alone, so he wanted to make a friend. So he went swimming and found an octopus. So that's a squishmallow that she actually has a pineapple, and this one is an octopus. And it says, so they wanted one more friend to complete the group. There's the husky. She loves to draw, my daughter. And it says, bye. Oh, actually, no, let's wait. So then they went into the forest and found the husky, and now they were complete. Now they were complete. So there's the story. And at the bottom, it says, bye, the three amigos. So those are the three characters in her story. Love, Lainey. And that's her little book that she made. So I thought I just wanted to share that with you before I reread the story of The Mitten. So do you remember what happened in the story from yesterday? Okay, good. So there is a main character in the story, and his name is Nicky, and his grandmother knitted him a pair of mittens. Do you remember what color they were? That's right, white. And white is not the best color, especially during a snowstorm. And so if it's snowing out and you lose a mitten, it's going to be really, really hard to find it. So the grandmother did not want to use the white yarn, but she decided to do it anyway since it was Nicky's request to make them white. So she gives him the mittens. He goes outside to play in the snow, and of course, what happens? He loses the mitten. And some animals decide to come in to the mitten and keep themselves warm. Do you remember at least one animal that goes inside the mitten? Okay, awesome. There was a mole. What other animals were there? There was a rabbit or a hare. What animal was this? Do you remember? What about this guy? We're going to be learning about owls towards the end of this week. And next week, we're going to learn all about owls, so I'm really excited about that. So there's a lot of animals that are inside the mitten. It's all stretched out. The owl's coming along. He wants to go inside the mitten. He gets inside. Oh boy, there's another animal that comes along, and he wants to get warm inside the mitten. Oh my goodness, look at all these animals that go inside the mitten. Finally, something happened. Do you remember what happened? Someone sneezed, and the animals went flying everywhere out of the mitten. The mitten goes flying through the air. Luckily, Nikki, that main character in the story, finds the mitten and takes it home. And he sees his grandma at the end of the story, and she looks kind of perplexed, kind of confused, because one mitten is so much larger than the other. And that's the story of the mitten. So now I'm going to read it. The Mitten by Jan Brett. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. So that's the request, that they be white. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally, Baba made them. She made the mittens. After she finished, she said, when you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow white mittens. So she certainly doesn't want him to lose them. So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and it was left behind. There it is, right there. A mole. So a mole is the first animal that entered the mitten. A mole comes along. He's tired from tunneling. He discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. So the mole goes in first. And then what Jan Brett does on her pages of her illustrations is she pictures what animal's coming up next, or what's going to happen next in the story. So this animal's coming next. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. That means to look closely at it. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. So then this guy's gonna come next. A hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons right there, very, very sharp, they quickly let him in. So they're kind of scared of him. They don't want to get hurt by those claws. Oh my goodness. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left. But when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. Thumbs up, meaning you can come on in. They don't want to get hurt by him either. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox, trotting by, stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. A giant bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. There's not really a lot of room in there. But what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and bulged too many times its size. But Baba's good knitting held fast. So meaning that there was not a hole in it. All the material stayed together. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. There he goes and perches himself right on top of the bear's nose. She wiggled into one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. And then, do you remember what happened? Oh boy. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Achoo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. They went everywhere. On his way home, Nikki saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. So he was able to see it because it went flying through the air and it wasn't in the snow anymore. As he ran to catch his snow white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. There she is. It's his grandmother. First she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. So she's certainly happy that he was responsible for keeping his mittens. But she's thinking, what is going on here? Something does not look right. How did it get that stretched out? I wonder if the boy will tell I wonder if the boy doesn't really know what happened, does he? Nikki doesn't know what happened. All he knows is that he lost the mittens, he went about, we don't really know what he did, and then he came back and he found it. So I wonder if he's wondering too how it got so stretched out. I wonder. I hope that you enjoyed this story of The Mitten by Jan Brett, and I will see you tomorrow.